Welcome back to another episode of Season 5 of the RAG podcast. As you guys know by now, this is the #1 podcast across the recruitment sector globally. And we've always been on a mission to help recruitment agencies grow by interviewing founders and telling their stories of success from startup all the way to scale up and exit. Well, this season we're a little bit different. How do you, as a recruitment leader and founder, maintain your family and friendships whilst being the best person at work? How do you stay physically fit mentally and emotionally? And how do you find time for yourself in the madness? How do you find time for self-interest, for hobbies, and self-improvement? Well, to help you with this, I'm going to be interviewing someone every single week that can demonstrate experience in one or more of these areas. So I'm going to talk to recruitment founders and also some experts from outside the industry who can deep dive into things like relationships and health and well-being. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy today's show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the RAG podcast. We are on the final day of November 2021. I can't believe how fast this year's gone. It is insane to be thinking we're going into December tomorrow. But to wrap up November, I've got an amazing guest for you today. I'm so excited to be joined by Amy Goldin. Amy is the CEO of Opus Talent Solutions. I've mentioned this on LinkedIn all week. This is someone who I've tried to get on. I don't know if she's even realized, but I've been messaging her pretty much for 2 years to be on the show. We met back in 2017. And I was inspired then by what she was trying to achieve. Now the business has over 1,000 clients across 50 countries, 300 staff, 8 offices, UK, Netherlands, Australia, and the US. And literally, I think it was last week, the news hit the market that they were acquired by Graphite Capital, who are a private equity business. I'm so excited to find out more. What's the plan? What's going to happen? Right, let's get into today's session. So Amy will join me. Amy, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Hi.
Great to have you on. Sorry, we spent a little bit of time in the green room before. We're both working from home today, and I've got dogs. You've got all sorts coming in from different angles. So bear with us, everyone listening. But Amy, thanks for giving us your time. You're a busy woman. Looking at what's going on in the market, you're a busy person right now.
Yeah, I was feeling bad then when you were saying you've been trying to get me on for 2 years, like I've been swerving you, but it's been I haven't, I promise. It's probably been the weirdest, most intense 2 years of my life ever, like the combination of things that's happened. So
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm all right. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But look, for those people who don't know you, could you just give us an introduction, a better overview than I did you justice for just then?
So my name's Amy, as you know, and I'm currently running a company called Opus Talent Solutions. Opus Talent Solutions is at its heart a recruitment company, and we've got 3 brands. Mm-hmm. And we are very, very tightly focused on technology, digital, and renewable energy. So our 3 brands are Opus RS, which is our technology and digital recruitment brand, and that's been going for 13 years. We've got JDR Energy, which is our renewable energy brand. It's the only global recruitment company that focuses 100% on renewable energy rather than old energy. And then we've got Knowledgy, which is our newest brand. And that's essentially a retraining, a diversity and retraining company. The markets we work in are so candidate short. And struggle with diversity as well. We've got 1,000 clients globally, all asking for the same thing. Having run Opus for a few years, I was just getting frustrated that all our clients were saying we need more tech people, better tech people, and if they can be a woman or ethnic minority, that would be great. I'm thinking, well, first of all, like, we can't just magic these people out of thin air, but actually, even more importantly, all of these companies saying they're trying to solve a problem and improve the industry. And actually what you're really asking for is for me to take a female developer from another company and give it to you. Yeah. So you've solved a problem and they've created a problem. You're as the people working across companies, I felt like we needed to be the person to solve the problem on a bigger scale. So the basis of Knowledgy is that we find people that never thought they could go into tech, from all sorts of different backgrounds, that don't have traditional science backgrounds, tech backgrounds, retrain them, and then place them into our clients.
Wow.
So those are our 3 brands. That's what we're all working on at the moment, and that's what I do now. Yeah.
So it really is talent solutions. It's not just a recruitment business. There's more to it, which is you'd expect that of a business of your sort of size and scale, but there's still so many that just do the traditional routes of bums on seats. They don't venture out into anything they've not done before.
Yeah, and I think there's still a place for that, and I think especially if you're in the right industries, I think you have to. There's so many recruitment companies out there. We know that, and the job market is so hot at the moment. But I think that's quite weighted towards industry now. Like the landscape looks pretty different. I started in recruitment in 2013.
How did you get into it? Because you weren't the traditional route, were you?
No. Well, most people say they fell into recruitment, right? I didn't actually. I chose recruitment, but my first kind of proper job, I did a lot of weird jobs growing up, but my first, I guess, the first thing I'd put on LinkedIn is that I worked at Deloitte for about 5 years when I just graduated, and I did strategy and mergers and acquisitions. So it's fantastic business training. Really, really learned a lot. But after 5 years, I had that sort of, that mid-20s angst of like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, what is consulting? No one knows. And I ended up taking a job as a business advisor to James Caan, who made all his money in recruitment.
Yeah. How did you get that job? How did you go from Deloitte to that? It's quite an interesting route.
This is how most of my life's worked, and that I never. Oh my goodness.
This is live podcasting, everyone.
That's my marketing director, and she does this. She just tries to call me on like Zoom, and then she'll do it like 3 times now. I swear, she'll just not. She won't take the hint. So
the marketing director needs to know that we're on
my marketing director
brand.
Doesn't know we're on a live podcast. It's worrying. I should probably
love that. Go on.
Bit better.
So you said, how did you get in with James Caan? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I never had a planned route, I guess. I never had a planned out career, and I knew I just wanted to get out of consulting. I knew I wanted to do something more hands-on, less sort of generalist. And I was applying for I can't tell you how many different things I applied for. That I must have been about 25. I had just come back from doing a yoga instructor retreat. I was like, I'm going to get business. I'm going to be a yoga instructor. I went to Bali for a few months. Did a yoga instructor qualification. I was applying for jobs in travel, jobs in media, so many different things. And a job just came up on Escape the City to be James Caan's PA.
Right.
And I was like, I'd been in consulting for 5 years. It was like a massive, I guess, backward step in terms of pay and that kind of thing. But I was like, well, that sounds like that would be an interesting opportunity. And I didn't really think it was real. When you just see. So I applied. Literally 10 minutes later, I was sitting at my desk, got a call. Hi, do you want to come in and interview for this PA role? I was like, oh, wow, this is really happening. Okay. But anyway, I went to interview, and it was very clear that that wasn't the right role for me, and they'd already basically filled it anyway, but I thought my profile was interesting. And it ends up basically just being like a period of 3 or 4 months going in and having conversations with different people in that private equity fund and sort of showing the value. They'd sort of put something in front of me and saying, we're working on this deal at the moment. What do you think? Or how would you present this? Or would you invest in this? And, my background was all strategy and investment. And they were mostly from sort of recruitment backgrounds. And and after about I think it must have been 2 months of these meetings, I literally turned around to him and I said, look, are you offering me a job, or am I just turning up to these meetings for free from anymore. And he was like, yeah, good point. So they kind of created a role for me, and it was almost like you've got 6 months. So I sort of left this very, very safe corporate job where I knew my exact path, and I was earning quite good money, and I knew like every year what my pay rise would be. For me, like, I think a lot of people like that security. That I hated it.
Yeah, same. Couldn't handle that.
Yeah, and I took a pay cut. I took a job which was a 6-month contract essentially for a lower salary, which was basically like, you make something of this. So my title was James Caan's business advisor, which is, I thought that.
Did you have his name in your title?
On my business card.
Wow.
Business advisor to James Caan. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if I could get there one day. have my own people work for me and have my name in their job title. That'd be cool.
Yeah, positions open, I believe. And yeah, just really got stuck in and played much more into my strengths, like being able to be a bit more entrepreneurial, being closer to the kind of the action. And interestingly, the first thing I got involved in at that company was selling a group of recruitment companies, which was at the time called HTIG, now called Engage, to Graphite Capital.
Yeah.
The company that's recently invested in us. So I kind of became aware of Graphite then, and also learnt a lot about recruitment. I'd done a few recruitment M&A deals at Deloitte, and really learned about recruitment, not necessarily from a doing recruitment perspective, but from a kind of there's 40,000 recruitment businesses out there. Only 1% of them ever get investment.
Yeah.
And some of that investment is like one founder buys it off another, or like it gets merged into something, and it's not necessarily even like a big paycheck investment. So I got to know a lot about what takes a recruitment business from being like a lifestyle business to being a proper scalable investable business.
Yeah.
With that knowledge, I started my own company in 2014 with the investment of Hamilton Bradshaw as a private equity company. And that was called Recruitment Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So basically saying, look, we know how to scale these companies. We know how to make them investable. Let's take the best people of those 40,000, the ones that don't want a lifestyle business. Because actually, I think a lot of times in recruitment, people talk about lifestyle businesses as if like they snit, like, oh, it's
like a negative thing.
But I think that, do you know what? And especially like since the pandemic, becoming a parent and things like that, I actually think one of the things I love about recruitment so much is and the reason I chose it as an industry is that it gives opportunity to anyone that wants it. Doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your education, doesn't matter what exactly it is that you want. Like, you can, if you've got the desire and the talent and the drive, you can make it fit your needs.
Yeah.
And so I think actually the fact that you can have amazing lifestyle businesses in recruitment is great, but there are people out there that want to build structures and processes and hiring and training and finance and all that stuff, which makes it a lot more complicated. So the idea of Recruitment Entrepreneur was that we had a hub, an office hub, really nice offices, proper systems, proper CRMs, proper finance team. We'd find super ambitious people and sort of plug them in.
Yeah.
Their own brands. So yeah, back in 2013, so this story's kind of come full loop, but back in 2013 when I started, it was for me more about that sort of efficiencies rather than the specific sector, because I think there was still a lot of room in a lot of sectors back then for growth. We weren't far out of, like, it was, the 2008 recession was like, 2013 was like the year everything really kicked up a gear again.
Yeah.
And then I think by 2016, I'd started to really want to focus in on tech. And I also I felt like I kind of grew up doing, like, when I started Recruitment Entrepreneur, I was 26 or 27.
Wow.
I ran a business before. I'd not worked in recruitment before. And actually the Opus opportunity came up for me at the end of about 2016. And Opus was a completely different beast, really, because whereas my last business, I've been like, right, I know how to make a business scalable, and I know the processes that should go into it, and I know what an investor's looking for. By the end of that by then I'd been in recruitment for a few years, and I also understood recruitment and like the opportunities in it. And Opus to me was a business I'd always had on my radar, because it was the fastest growing recruitment business that I knew of, that had never taken any investment, that had never, like, it was still sort of being run by the founders, and they'd got it in the sort of first 8 years to like 150 people, already had global offices, and it was really, really, really fast growth. And I first went in there initially just to do a short consulting project for the owner, the founder, Darren. We were quite good friends, and I said, look, I'll have a look for you at what you know, what I think of what's going on underneath the bonnet. And it was just if we had the same goal and the same growth ambitions, and we were growing at roughly the same speed, like, you can't have got there from two more different ways.
Really?
That had very much been about 4 friends, you know, with a couple of years recruitment experience between them, getting in a room, hitting the phones, being like, what's the hottest market, right? It's 2008 they started, right? So right in the middle of like the height of the recession. And they're like, if anyone's hiring anyone now, what is it? They're like, app developers. If you're hiring someone now, it's an app developer. So they're like, right, let's just do app developers. And that's how it started. And you know, whereas I had a build it and they will come platform, like everything perfect. Like, now let's hope we can generate some revenue. Because they were like, we've got all this revenue and no systems or processes to hold it.
That's what the majority of the industry looks like, though, isn't it? It's all 99% of the business I know are Darren Ryemill-esque, where they've
absolutely, but very, very few businesses manage to get to the scale Opus had
without the structure.
At all, and especially just as like an entrepreneurial kind of endeavor. So I just like the.
So what did you walk into? What did it honestly like? As honest as you can be, what was it like when you walked in? When you lifted that bonnet? What did you find?
There's some very funny stories about my first day that I'll tell you offline. But it was like beautiful chaos, like so much energy, so much drive, so much ambition, so much fun, so much like, just everyone had a shared goal. Like, everyone knew that they were going to be the best, and they were in the best company, and that, like, so collaborative, and so you know, everyone was willing to help each other. And it was just like, and like I say, chaos. I mean, it didn't feel like that, like, because the systems and processes and the way that they recruit at Opus has always been like, the training's always been incredible, like the speed they get trainees up and running, that kind of thing. It was the sort of back office part that was, you know, there wasn't whole sort of marketing teams, HR teams, finance teams, all of that kind of stuff. And actually, I think it had started to lose its way slightly with the strategy. And so one of the things, you know, one of the trends at that time was multiple investments, you know, buy and build. And like, that's what I'd started at Recruitment Entrepreneur, because when I'd started it in 2013, that had been the right market for that. Come 2017, when I was really at Opus, you know, Darren said, oh, you know, you've got experience in making, you know, investments, you know, should we be doing that? And actually, I looked at what they had and what they were good at, and I was like, you need to be doing exactly the opposite. You know,
how do you know that? Like, what are you looking for? Like, not many of us have that skill set to know. What are you looking for?
Well, so first of all, interviewing every senior person in the business, like having a really kind of asking everyone the same questions, like, and trying to come, like, asking everyone, you know, I had like an interview program. So I spoke to every key member of the business, back office, front office. I spoke to trainees, I spoke to every director. Some of them have been there 10 years, well, 8 years, so they're 8 years old. Some of them have been there 1 year, you know, about what their experience of Opus was. And then just looking at all the numbers inside out, like, you know, breaking it down by person, by team, by brand, like what is the productivity per head, like what, and like from an internal perspective, then what does that market, what's the growth of that market? And what Opus were brilliant at was tech. And actually energy was, the energy company had started a year before that. And actually tapping into these future markets, really understanding candidate short markets in really high growth sectors is Opus's sweet spot, because they run so fast. Like first the job was in the morning, like the activity levels, the kind of focus. And I always describe it as, you know, the tech market and the renewables market are like treadmill, like they're so fast. It's like you walk into a gym and the treadmill's going at 20 miles an hour. Like if you're already on it, it's just keeping up the pace, keep up the pace. If you lose your focus or you lose your concentration, you're off the back. Try to get onto that treadmill, like it's impossible. So, and that is, people say there's no barriers to entry in recruitment. In markets like tech and markets like energy that we play in, trying to get into it when it is that fast moving, you know, like there's, if you look at a a Java role in central London perm role, it's like a contract market. You're not going to have a 5-stage 3-week interview process. Like if that candidate comes on the job board in the morning with their CV, if you haven't phoned them by 8 a.m, they're gone. So the core and focus of what we're good at is knowing our, like that niche knowledge of those sectors that are quite new, keeping up to date with those sectors, knowing every candidate in those sectors, when they want to move, when they last moved, you know, what their dog's called, like everything. And actually by expanding into all of these other sectors that were low growth sectors, slower markets, slower, like it didn't translate, and it was also not where the growth was going to come from. So we made the decision, rather than to invest in more things, take it all back to bare basics. And that's what I said at the beginning of the podcast, those 3 brands that we've got now, which are just those sectors.
I want to mention our sponsors really quickly today. Everyone knows Odro. I don't need to introduce Odro for who they are. The video interview absolute specialist and number one in the market. I wondered if anyone had seen the video that Odro produced on LinkedIn this week. Ryan and the team put together a video that announced they had a party to announce their new framework. And I thought it was just amazing. So the framework is basically, when you're using video technology, it's not just about interviewing anymore. There's so many elements, from BD, attraction, engagement, aftercare, so many parts of the recruitment process that you can use video to enhance your performance. And they've named it the framework. They created the sickest video this week on LinkedIn. I loved it. It actually made me jealous I don't have an office anymore. If you haven't, go and check out Ryan McCabe and the Odro guys on LinkedIn. Watch that video. If you're interested to know how the framework and their suite of tools can help you, then please reach out via odro.co.uk/demo, and they will get you in before Christmas and find out more. Did you close any business lines off and stop things?
Yeah, it was a hard couple of years. Like it really was, because especially when you're moving into someone, you know, Opus had been built on personality and like run by the founder, and everyone, Darren was such a great leader. Everyone loved working for him. It was a really fun place to be. And I didn't want to take over the reins unless I had the support of the company. But I also didn't want to run someone else's business their way. So it's a really hard balance, right? A really hard couple of years having to make those big decisions and keep people.
Did you ever get to a point where Darren didn't agree, or he didn't want you?
Do you know what? Like Darren's actually it's always been an amazing business partner, because he knew it was time that he needed someone else to run it. Like he'd done his sprint. He loved the startup phase. It was getting to the point where he knew it was about implementing processes and all that stuff that he would say was, you know, really boring. And he was like, obviously it is really hard to step back and let go, but he always said there's literally no point me asking you to do this if I'm going to ask you to do it my way. I might as well do it myself. And he's like, I'm often going to disagree maybe with the way you do things or how you get there or whatever. But the day I overrule you is the day I fire you. Like, there's no point if I want you to run it your way and I agree you're going to get there. There's no point me nitpicking over all the small decisions. I shall never get there.
Yeah.
So
I reckon that's something people. There's been others that have said they'll do that and then they struggle. Like it takes. You look at football. I know you might not be interested, or you may be, but
why do you say?
Well, yeah, you're right. There's a stereotype there, right? That's on me. But the point is, I don't want to. I'm using an example straight away that you may or may not be interested in. But Man United as a football team, Alex Ferguson, everyone seems familiar with him. You know, was it 8-9 years since he left? And there's a lot of rumors that he's still in the background now, overriding decisions. You know, even the decision to bring Cristiano Ronaldo in 2 months ago.
Terrible decision.
Yeah, I think so. It took away. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a team. He had his own way of doing it. I don't think he's great, but they finished second in the league. A couple of months later, Ronaldo's going to Man City. Ferguson makes a call, forces him into the club, and hey presto!
That particular example is such a good example for, I think, how a lot of companies, I think particularly recruitment companies, or maybe I'm saying particularly recruitment companies because that's the industry I know so well. When I first got into the industry, how they were allowed to run, which is like built on stars.
Yeah.
And even if that star is a fucking asshole, they score goals. But one person scoring goals can't make you win the league.
No.
And if that person doesn't gel with the team and like the team isn't happy, you're not going to win either way, no matter how many goals they score.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've really had to learn over I guess I've been sort of running.
There's some big egos in recruitment as well, isn't there? With those people, they're the loudest, they're the most opinionated, they're difficult to manage.
God, yeah. And like the decision to like not hire someone or to exit someone who's good is almost impossible. Like that's such a big call. But I think that sort of team above individual is a really big thing. And I think that's becoming more and more, it was becoming sort of more popular anyway, but I think the pandemic really shifted towards this idea of, what do your people actually need, and looking after people, and, places where everyone feels comfortable to work. But I always describe Opus as like a high performance sports team because it's not a fact. Like when businesses say, "Oh, we're like a family," I always find that a bit hard to swallow because it's like, no matter how drunk my sister was at Christmas, I'm not going to fight her. Like, I think it's more because it is that feeling of like we want to be the best as a team, and to be the best as a team, we have to collaborate, we have to share ideas, we have to pass the ball to each other, like we have to. And we all have to raise the game for each other, call each other up when we're not putting in enough, like support when we are, and that's the only way you're going to win. But then once you've won, everyone still wants man of the match. And I think that's the environment we try and create, where it's team first and success as a team first, and then once you've achieved that, you still need that individual drive to also be the top of that.
I get that. It's a balance. It's a real balance in that. Yeah. I've got two questions in my head and I don't want to ask them at the same time, right? But first question is, and it might be a better question to ask later, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you think you could have done what you've done had you worked in recruitment for 5 years, and not done the route through Deloitte and into M&A? Like, would you be the person without that? I mean, maybe it's a silly question, but would you be the leader you are without that background?
That's a really good question. There's no way I would have done it so young. Could have done it so young. I think you can learn on the job. Like so much of it is learning on the job. But
in Deloitte, I imagine you would have been parachuted into so many different brands, met so many people, listened, consumed information turned it around, presented back skills that you need at the top of a business that you just don't learn on a desk necessarily the same way.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees a little bit. Like when you're in a role and you're like climbing a ladder, I think, you know, you need to be able to see things from both sides.
Yeah.
And I think what that first 5 years gave me was kind of the ability to be able to see something from the top. Because as you say, like when you're starting out in consulting, like 1 month I'd be working on a newspaper project, the next month I'd be working on a hydraulic lift business. And those are two actual real examples. So you have to be able to almost put the industry aside, the product, and be like, right, what does this business do? Like, what's the vision? What's it good at? Where are the red flags? Where are the quick wins? Where are the longer, like, let's look at the market it plays in. Who are its competitors? What's going on in that market? Is this business driving in the right direction or the wrong direction for the market? What makes this business better than its competitors? Because actually it's not, in recruitment, there's like 30 things you could be excellent at. From a like recruitment process point of view, you know, it's either, you know, your market knowledge or your, you know, your productivity or your margins or your, you know, whatever it is. Like there's so, but if everyone was brilliant at every business would be exactly the same.
Yeah, true.
And sometimes people think strategy is about like trying to be good at everything, and actually a lot of it's about deciding what not to do. And you know how so often with like performance reviews and stuff, you'll sit down with your manager and they'll say, oh, you're 5 out of 5 in these 3 things and 2 out of 5 in these things. So let's put loads of effort into those things you're bad at. And actually, sometimes from a business perspective, you need a bare minimum of sort of capability in everything. But then actually, if there's 5 things you're like a 10 out of 10 at, why not put your focus there and be the best in the world at those things?
It's a bit like the analogy around people as well, isn't it? Like, I know my first mentor, I wouldn't say he's a mentor, he's just someone who inspired me at Randstad in Melbourne, a guy called Paul Zouch. And he talked about how he left a brand early on in his career because he was the top performer in the team, really motivated, but, you know, they put no effort into him because he was performing well. They just put all the time into the people that were at the bottom who were just churning over. And he's like, and he ended up, and when he left, they were like, why? Like, what's wrong? He's like, well, you've not spoke to me for 6 months. Like, you've not invested anything in me because I'm doing well. And it's a bit like that. We always focus on worst thing. And we could be pushing the best people even.
Yeah. There's like a stat, like a management stat that you tend to spend, managers tend to spend 80% of their time with the 20% of the bottom people.
Yeah.
Actually, a little bit of time spent with the good people could make them like so much better. But yeah, that is a really hard balance to strike. But
so the question around could you have done it leads me into the next question is like, are we looking in our sector? Because I think there's so many brands that would benefit from someone like you coming in from a slightly outside perspective. Are we looking at it the wrong way, do you think? Would more recruitment companies benefit from thinking, could we go and find some management consultants or to come in and add value in the business as opposed to just developing organic talent all the same from the same background?
I think it's hard because, as you say, quite a lot of recruitment businesses are founder run. So at what point does that I think Darren was very, very brave to say, I'm not, like, it's very rare that after 8 years of running your own business, when it's going really well, to say I'm not the person anymore is actually quite unusual. But I've always looked for experience outside of the sector, and it doesn't matter what, it doesn't have to be your CEO. But I think it's really important that you consider, it's like any kind of diversity. Like, you know, people understand now that diversity isn't a HR issue, it's a business issue. And like the reason that diversity is beneficial isn't just to give people an opportunity, which is important, but it's also, it makes your business better. If you have, you know, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different ways of thinking, lots of different, you know, lots of different educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, all of that stuff. And that's what we base knowledge on. So we sell that to our clients. We have to be doing that ourselves too, surely.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at your company and you're getting stuck at a lot of recruitment companies, they do really well. They get to 20, go back to 15, they get to 25, they go back to 20, they get to 25, they go back to 22 or 30, or whatever those numbers are.
Yeah, you're right.
100.
Getting past 30 tends to be a bit of a sticking point for me.
And I think if you're in that spot, no matter whether you're 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, if you're in that spot where you can't shift, look around at your top team and how much, like, is everyone, because one of the reasons I think Darren decided it was time for him to move on from Opus was that he said himself, we started as a Sunday league team, like we started as 5-a-side in the park, and now we're getting to the Premier League, and it's like we've had to hire Premier League players, but we've also still got, like, so rather than 11 players, we've got 20. And actually I think a lot of recruitment companies, because they started small, started founder-led, blah, 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 started with a group of mates, you naturally want to promote those people. You want to give those people a chance. And sometimes the idea of parachuting in a consultant, if it's done badly, it can be catastrophic. Yeah. But then look around, and are you, to put it in really basic terms, is your entire leadership team 10 white guys all the same age who have always been in recruitment?
Yeah.
And even if they're not all men and they're not all white, have they always been in recruitment, or are they all salespeople? Because diversity is not just about race or gender or any of that stuff. It's also about experience and just any kind of difference. And so I make sure that on my board I have as many, like, I have salespeople and non-salespeople on my board, which was a little bit sort of not necessarily the norm, like to elevate people, like your marketing director or your people director, to the same sort of level as your sales directors. And those people are from different industries. Like, don't always hire, I need a marketing person, let's go through my top 5 competitors and try and steal one of their marketing people. Well, why? Because what, do you want to do your marketing like them? Or so I just think, our marketing director was the VP of marketing for Sony Music, and her job was literally to make people famous. She made Alicia Keys famous. She worked with Kings of Leon. And recruitment is such a people game. We want to make our brand famous. We want to make our clients, help us make our clients famous. So people want to work there. Yeah. Not just, let's get Hydrogen's second in command marketing person to come over and write blogs about recruitment on LinkedIn. So I think
what you're saying is diversity is more than just a tick box exercise. It adds significant value across the business.
Yeah, that's the question. No, I don't think every recruitment company should be helicoptering in a management consultant. But I do think, look around your team and
question whether or not. Yeah, it's like I used to recruit in the insurance market, which is the Lloyd's of London insurance market. It's famous for being incredibly backwards in terms of technology. Like, they literally still walk, or they did until the pandemic, into the Lloyd's building every day and rubber stamp and sign documents that will ensure Tutankhamun going from Egypt to Australia, right? It's done in written hand paper. And they claim that they're trying to just put an electronic trading system in. This was only a few years ago. But then when they go out to their tech provider to find tech people, they find them from all the other companies in the market. So they're not. And then when you say go out, we used to say go outside to banking or companies that have complex trading platforms. Now they don't understand the market. So you're like, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
If you're so how are you innovating? Like, if you're just building something that someone else has built, but 5 years later,
no, it's not innovation. So you've mentioned a couple of things there. I want to get onto a couple of other topics, but if you would look at the time at Opus, the 4 to 5 years or so, I can't believe we met in September 2017 when I came in to meet you, and it's gone like Hoxo was 6 months old, not even 6 months old. It's gone.
How much has happened in that time? My God,
it's nuts. It's literally nuts. But what would you say are the kind of pivotal changes you've made on like a high level, without going into loads of detail? What are the kind of statement changes? So one would be the board and the bringing in like, you know, people from other industries. What other things do you think you've implemented over that time that you're proud of?
Yeah, I think the sector focus was a massive thing. Like there was 13 brands at Opus when I joined. We took that down to 2 and then added 1 in Knology.
That's massive.
We're now 3 brands. And we've been able to go super deep into our clients and into those things that we do. And as a result, the work we do with our clients has what we're doing with our clients is so much more interesting, because we were a massive like candidate-led BD heavy company, and we're still brilliant at that, but it's almost like you do the hard work and then move on.
Yeah.
And actually now that we are so much niche specialists in these markets, we've got, you know, clients we work with and we do all of their recruitment for them, and not just their recruitment but their solution around talent. So, you know, why are you struggling to hire people in the market? Like, let's come in and help work with your internal teams on your interview process, you know, work on your, you know, we'll do D&I lectures or like seminars for our client hiring teams, you know, help them with their kind of people planning and do all of their hiring. You know, like they want to get from, they've just got Series A funding, they want to get from 10 people to 50. Like, let's partner with you and help you get, like, that's the goal, to get to 50 people, not to hire 1 person this week, because how do those people fit together? What are the different skill sets you need? So I think that sector focus and the way we work with clients and the things we do, whether that's through, you know, we've got clients now that we work with, the same client in Australia, in England, contract, perm, Knology, training, everything for one client. And we didn't do that before because we were trying to do too many things.
Right.
So I think it was the sort of looking at the strength and the breadth of the skill sets in our leadership team, focusing in on those 2 core future sectors with the energy as well. As I said, like, we made the decision back in 2017, 2018. We saw the growth of renewables, and it was at that point we were already doing quite a lot of business in energy, and we're like, if we don't pivot now, it's going to get too hard. And we want to be a company that does good. Whether that's through our diversity programs through Knology, whether that's through working in sustainable energy. We plant every time we place a contractor, we planted 1,000 trees this year for every contractor.
Wow.
that we placed. And so we made a really bold decision to literally cut off millions of pounds of income and start again in renewables, because we were like, if we don't do it now, it's going to be too late. I think there's a lot of energy companies that have got massive books of traditional energy, and they are trying to add renewable divisions on. But that's quite a hard story, I think, because it's like either you care about this stuff or you don't.
Yeah, you're staring down the barrel of a gun as well in terms of the way the world's moving. So you got on board with the modern technology, the way of working. Where did Graphite get involved then? So how's that? You know, you mentioned briefly, you know, when, and I know Tim, I interviewed Tim Cook and we talked a lot about the move to Engage, but how did they come back on the scene, and what is this acquisition going to do for the business?
Well, it actually, you know, it was always in our plan to take on a partner. So, like, first of all, obviously, if you're the founder of a business and you've stepped away from it completely, like, of course you want to realize some value for that asset, because otherwise you've got all of your money tied up in something you've got no control over. It's stressful.
Yeah.
So the goal, like, obviously one of the reasons Darren brought me in the first place was to make the company valuable, to be able to get investment. But timing wise, we really weren't expecting it, because COVID, you know, was a hard year. You know, because we, like, you know, the changes we'd made to focus on these sectors, we always knew we were doing it because of where the market was going anyway. COVID just brought all that 5 years forward. So like we were incredibly lucky that we'd made those changes, because I think that, you know, in terms of tech and energy, like everyone was hit in April, May, June last year, when no one knew what was going on and people thought it might only last a couple of months. No one was hiring, you know.
Yeah.
Start dates got pushed back. No one wanted to onboard remotely. They'd never done it before. There was no point. We'd all be back in the office in 2 months, blah, blah, blah. So I think no matter what sector you're in, hiring in, you know, Q2 of 2020 was through the floor.
Yeah.
But because of the sectors we're in, I think people started to realize this is actually how things are going to be for a while now. And actually we can onboard remotely, and maybe there's some positives in some of this. You know, our sectors started to pick up pace quite quickly, and actually now have continued at a pace that was even faster than pre-pandemic. So we were very sort of lucky with that, but we still had like overall our 2020 was, you know, not the growth year we'd expected. And so we came into 2021 thinking, right, this is a rebuild year.
Yeah.
And actually everything that we'd done, all the work we'd done on neatening up our processes, making sure our back office worked, the sector focus we've been in, the focus on the things that matter even more now, you know, increasing the tech skills market, the diversity, the renewables, everything. It just felt like it all fell into place. And we made a lot of, I think, good decisions during the pandemic around how we looked after our people and putting people first, and the move to work from home. And I was actually very good timing, went on maternity leave in February 2020.
Wow. That is perfect.
So whenever anyone looks at our graphs, Q2 2020 dip, I was like, well, that's because I went on maternity leave.
Yeah, forget COVID, because I wasn't around.
No, I couldn't cope without me.
So you said that you is everyone completely at home, or how have you managed it now?
So like we did a kind of a big engagement survey around this time last year to make sure that we were not assuming anything. Like, do people now want to work from home? Do they not want to work from home? Like, so we sort of asked people what they wanted. And actually, I think one of the things that I've really tried to put a lot of emphasis on in the last year or so is about that mutual respect, like trusting people, and expecting that, I guess, that back, and that's a two-way relationship. And I think during COVID, like, we put our trust in people and like put our arms around people and made sure, you know, we topped up furlough to 100%. Like, we never ever did pay cuts or commission freezes, bonus freezes, anything like that. Like, we put on training for anyone that was on furlough. Like, and actually, like, you know, did a really kind of smooth work from home, all that kind of stuff. And people really like responded so well, and like the way that people worked, and people just got on with it. And that sort of sports team mentality of like everyone gunning for the same goal and wanting the same thing, like really, it was like the blitz mentality, right? And like, I think for us, it really solidified that we're all on the same, I guess, on the same path, on the same side. And yeah, so we sort of said, well, look, we trust you. You guys have done an incredible job working from home all year in your pajamas, whatever. Like, what do you want? So all of our offices are slightly different. It depends how they work, how small the team is, how far away they live, like how young they are, what responsibilities they've got at home, all that kind of stuff. But generally, we ask people to be in 2 days a week for that team bonding, and like people tend to pick the same days, or at least teams pick the same days, and then the other days they can do what they want.
I think from my experience of, you know, I'm working with 2,500 recruiters now, and I talk to them about this stuff, and variety is the one word that comes out. Like, what we lost in the pandemic was variety. We lost decision-making ability. We were forced into one way of working. Before the pandemic, we didn't have much variety in this sector. Everyone was 5 days a week. You might have had some companies did a dress down day once a month on a Friday or on a Friday. There's a couple of, you know, working from home was giving someone a laptop and saying, you know, if you really have to go home, you can, but we're going to watch you and monitor you. But variety now, I think, is genuinely embedded in the culture of majority of our sector, which is great. So moving on to the Graphite, what does that mean then? So what's going to happen now? Now that the news has come out, what does that mean for the business? Where are you heading?
Do you know what? Like, in terms of day to day, like very little should change because they're investing in our plan. Like we weren't looking for investment. I won't end up going for a coffee with someone from Graphite, and sort of, and it all happened very quickly. It was about like May, June time, and I was like, even a month ago, we were like, we'd had an okay Q1, better than we'd expected coming out of the pandemic. That was sort of it. And then from sort of May onwards, things it's just one record after another. Every month's a record month. Like, it's just so much excitement, so much present. Like, and it wasn't even just the numbers going up, all the things that we'd planned, whether it was, our market sectors, our focus on clients, on solutions, on knowledge, like everyone it's just clicking for everyone. Like all of this stuff that we spent years putting in place, it all just started clicking. And when I was sometimes you just don't take time to reflect on what you've done. I remember having this coffee. It's supposed to be like a half-hour coffee. I was there for like 2.5 hours. And just going through what we'd achieved and where we'd come from and what we were doing now. And I was like, wow, this sounds really impressive. And they obviously thought the same because the next day they're like, do you want to go for lunch? And I was like, playing it cool. It started off literally within like 3 conversations. They were like, look, we're interested. Like, are you looking, so I had a conversation with Darren. I was like, this is just come out of nowhere, but they've got so much experience in our sector. They really believe in our plan. So on a kind of day to day, nothing should change. But what we do have now is a company that has, in the same way that Darren brought me in because I had experience in things he didn't. Like, the thing that's great about Opus is that we try to give people as much opportunity as possible. So a lot of people are like, I think some of the best, I think the people that work at Opus are the best in the industry and even outside the industry, but we still only know what we know.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about having Graphite as a partner and taking on that kind of, I guess, that more sort of institutional investor rather than just, because again, Darren was amazing, but he'd even he'd sort of stepped back so long ago that even now I was like, well, your experience is from that like 5 years ago and from a small company. So we just felt like we were having the same conversations over and over again, and then just going with our gut feel. And so the plan is very much to focus on carrying on with our international, focusing into staying with tech and renewables, really focusing on our USPs and our that sort of social impact stuff that we're really focused on now as well, whether that's what we do for our clients or what we're doing internally. And when I joined, we had about 20% of our revenue was international. It's now 60%. Great. So really going into new markets. That we opened 2 US offices last year. So it's sort of just growing every office, hiring, growing out our client solutions team and connecting all the bits of the business. So we are doing more and more working together across the world to give our clients solutions rather than just individual hires. And they've backed that plan. So they have knowledge of other countries. They have knowledge of how a company gets from being our size to double our size. We haven't done that before. They have also systems experience. Our systems, they need updating, but you don't want to just a massive system implementation for a 300-person company. How great to have someone that's done 10 of those before. So it's just having someone, the support there to say, yes, that's a good idea, or we've made that mistake before, or what about this system? So there's just, I think from a strategy perspective, the same, but I guess the chances of us hitting those now are just even more.
So much higher. Wow. Is Darren going to stay involved? Is he or
not from a kind of official perspective. He's sold out, but he's very much like, he came in to use our offices the other day for one of his like startup teams, like he's thinking of investing in, or we go out for drinks, like, and he's very interested in the business. He's a big friend of the business. Like, he'll always help, like, oh, I met this person that I told you to interview for Opus, or but from an official capacity, he's like, I think clean break, it means he can go and focus on his family, and he's got a small baby as well. And
it's an amazing story, though. It really is. The second sponsor are Vincere.io. Again, I don't think I need to explain Vincere, the CRM provider, the all-in-one CRM provider that I think are just gripping the market. This week alone, I've had 3 of my Hoxo clients tell me they've just signed up with Vincere. They've said the process was seamless, the service was excellent, and they've gone out and met with all the other providers and decided on Vincere. The main bit of feedback was that they communicate their vision and their roadmap to the future much clearer than the others in the market. So if you're a recruitment agency that wants a CRM you can depend on that's going to grow with you, both in the UK and the US now as well, globally reaching, then reach out to the guys. They're giving away discounts to our listeners. So www.vincere.io/rag. All the links are attached to the episode. Please check them out. I'm excited to see where you guys go. Without a doubt, you'll achieve what you need to achieve. Before we do finish, we've got a few minutes left. Like, one of the parts of this season, I know we've had loads to talk about, but it's about the human side of being a leader of a business. And, we've talked about it. You've become a parent in the pandemic. You're not only achieving all this stuff, but you being a mother, potentially, the biggest job you'll ever do. And how are you managing that? What's your routine? How are you making it work for yourself?
I'm not sure I am. I feel very fortunate, and this probably, I don't know if this is a bit controversial, but for me, the pandemic came at a time that allowed me to really stop and think about those things. I think before I had Alba, that's my daughter, I just assumed I'd take 4 months off, I'd go back to work. I'd love her so much, and I'd see her as often as I can, and I'd have to have a full-time nanny and all this stuff, and that's how it was. And actually, when she was 4 weeks old, we went into lockdown, and when it first happened, I was terrified because I didn't even know what I was doing anyway. And then suddenly you can't have, I think in the first pandemic, you weren't allowed to go to work unless you did like 5 jobs.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even have like the health visitors round. I couldn't have my mom, like any carers, any help with the house. So I was doing had a 4-week-old baby. I was doing everything. I was with her all day in a flat. Like no garden. My husband was working from home in the spare room.
Wow.
And so I had just the living room and the baby and that all day to sort of allowed out once a day. And at first I just thought, I can't do this. And actually as time went on, it made me just like, you had to, right? You had to like just take it down a notch and just enjoy the small things. Like I'd be like just doing 3-hour walks in the park with her, sitting and just like lying on the rug looking at a little star toy or just anything to like pass the time. And I think actually having that time and then not, I did end up going back to work pretty early, but 3 days a week and all from home because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, and what it made me realize was actually I bumped into someone I used to work with a couple of days ago when I was starting my first business, and I was 26 and she was a mum. And I said to her, like, I saw her and I was like, I want to apologize to you because we always got on, like, I always did I thought I understood. I thought I was, understanding of if she needed to leave early, her kid was sick or get a certain train, but I didn't understand. Like, and I said to her, I'm so, so sorry that you didn't get more. She was it was a startup team, right? So most people were like, yeah, whatever. She was the only mum. And I just don't think she got enough credit for like how much she had to do and how much she didn't. And in those days, that was back in 2014, you couldn't say, I can't stay as late as everyone else because I'm a mum. I can't come in 5 days a week because I'm a mum.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't the done thing. And I couldn't have known. I know that I couldn't have known, but looking back now, I still feel the guilt.
Yeah.
Her experience of having young children was like compared to what I've been able to experience because of the flexibility and the understanding that the pandemic's given people, and also because I run the company. And one of the first things I did when I got back was change the parental leave policy, and all of these things, and the flexibility. And because actually what I realized was, in the old days, like when you choose to like stop work to have a baby, or like start work again, it's very sort of black and white. Like, I'm not working, I'm with my baby, or I am working. But actually for me, spending 3 days a week where I could mentally engage in the real world again and talk to adults, even if on Zoom, and think about something that I was interested in, but physically be with my child, to feed her 4 times a day and still do bath time and have lunch with her and be close to her. And, if I had a break, take her for a walk, was what I needed. I didn't need to not do any work. Like this thing, the idea of like work-life balance, it had to be work-life balance in the old days, because work was a place you went, not a thing you did.
Yeah.
And now I feel like if you love your job, then actually that thing of like, I felt I could go back to work earlier because I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just 3 days out of 7, I wasn't 100% focused on a baby. And for me, that was life-saving.
So where are you at? Where are you at with it now?
So I am back.
Should be 2 years old in the new year, right?
She's 2 in February. And I work from home 3 days a week. So 5, that means like those days I can always get up with her, do breakfast, take her to nursery if I don't have an early meeting, or if she's we have a childminder here some days, so I can always see her through the day, and I can always do unless I have to have a call with America at 6 or something, I'll always try and take that sort of evening slot to do her dinner, like do bath time, read her story, be there to put her to bed, because I can always work after that if I need to. But I think it's just, the day doesn't have to be like you go to work at this time, you come back from that time, and then that's when you're working and this is when you're not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm running a company and that company has to grow, but I'm also raising a child and she has to grow. And like, if both of those things can happen, who cares what time I do what? And that, I guess that's sort of how I cope. But I know not everyone has that. I'm trying to change policies at work so people understand they can do that, but it's still like your company's saying it's okay and feeling it's okay is a different
thing. 2 different things. Yeah.
I really want people to feel, and like even stupid things, like I'm so crap at running, but we have a company Strava account. So if I go, if the only time I can exercise to keep myself sane, the only gap I have is 11 o'clock. If I go for a run at 11 o'clock, I'll put it on Strava, not because I want everyone to know I run at 7 kilometers an hour, but
that's quite quick for me. That'd be good for me.
But because I want to know that you can go for a run whenever you want.
11 o'clock, yeah. Do you know what though? I'm nowhere near the level of you. We've got like 35 people, but I still feel guilty in my own business at times doing something like, to be honest, I've not been off the phone. I've not been off Zoom since 8 o'clock. I've had little gaps, but I've been on video since 8 a.m. and I've just had 2 cancellations between 2 and 4. So I'm going to go and do some exercise. Yeah. But to me, that's not the time I would normally do it.
Okay.
I know there's something inbuilt in me to feel good. I already feel it now. I've not even started.
There is so many years ingrained in us of what work should be. And if and I'm the same, like even sometimes if I go for a run, I put it on Strava, I feel guilty. Yeah. Like people are going to know I'm not but if we don't do it, it will never change.
No, I love that. I'm gonna look at that Strava account as a company. I've not done that. Look at that.
But we're not perfect, and we've got so far to go, and I'm certainly not perfect. And every day I have a meltdown either about work or Alba.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're just doing the best we can, aren't we? And I think as long as the company keeps growing and is doing good things and is doing what we want it to, we don't have to kill ourselves. And that's something I'm trying to learn too. Like I'm saying it to you to make it true.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's really hard. But
Final question then is, what is the point of it all for you, right? So you could, I imagine, financially you must be in a good position. I'm sure you're not, you're not in a position where you're desperate to work for money. You've got a beautiful daughter. You're in a stable situation. You've succeeded. So you've created so many things already in your career. Why are you still fighting for growth? What's burning inside to keep going?
I wish I could answer that question. I genuinely just love it. Like, and I think I've always been, I don't know if the word's ambitious, because again, like you say, I wasn't, I always thought I wanted to achieve a lot and like achieve more than, my parents had, like, but as achievement comes and money comes, I actually feel guilty about, like, I actually feel a bit guilty about it. Like, I'm not from a background where loads of people I know have loads of money, and I actually just feel a bit guilty about it. That's it. Like, oh, if I make more, like, and we do this and we do that, and we're really successful, I'm like actually makes me feel. That's that. So I know that's not what it is.
No.
I think I've always just, like, if I'm doing something, I want it to do well. Like, I want to do it well. Otherwise, I feel like there's no point. And I think I feel like what I'm doing now, what Opus is doing, what we're focusing on, the really good things we're doing, we're actually changing things in the industry, actually helping the industry. And I actually have come to a point now where I've put so much more of my focus on our charity partnerships, so much more of our focus on, like, what we're doing internally for our people to support them. And I feel like I've got to the point now where I finally feel comfortable in my own skin as a leader. There were so many years where I didn't, and I was playing other people's roles, and it was a bit inauthentic, and, like, I felt like I had to be a certain way because the people I worked with, the guys that I worked for, were that way. And I finally feel like now I've become a mum, and I've kind of taken the company over, and I've taken it in the direction that feels like where I think it should go. I think I feel like I can help change things now. And I think, I don't know, it's hard though, because then some days I just feel like an idiot. So
I know that feeling. I had a chat with my coach, and I speak to him every week, and we're talking about the future and vision, and he's like, we talked about exiting one day and selling for X millions and all these things of ambition. He goes, all right, cool. Well, and then he said, what are you going to do? Tell me about your vision of that after that. And when I actually explained it all, and again, I'm from a very humble background, no money. When I actually explained how I would live my life, he goes, I'm still waiting for the bit where you tell me you need millions of pounds. Like, you've not got, like, I haven't got any aspiration. I don't want to fly a jet. I don't want a Rolls Royce. Like, I don't have any of these. So I'm like, she's like, why are you doing it? I was like, I don't know. I'm the same thing as you. Like, different scale perhaps, but
do you ask that question to other people? Does anyone know why they do what they do?
Some people do, yeah. Like, I've got a couple of other people I've interviewed, and they are very clear. Like, I want to own a private jet, and I want to get this, and I want to have this house, and they're very, very clear on material. I want to be richer than my parents. Some people say, like, there's things that I don't have any of those things. So I don't know. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. Amy, I wish I could talk to you all day. It's been phenomenal, but you've got
a run to get on.
We've both got lots to do, yeah. I've got 2 dogs in the background as well that are going to be barking. But
you've got a really slow jog to complete.
Yeah, an 8 kilometer, whatever an hour run. Can I just say thank you for giving us your time? Like, it must be so busy in your life to give us that hour. If I'd love to have you back on in the future. Hopefully, it won't take 2 years this time. Just maybe a year. Maybe look at 12 months' time. Let's get you back on and see if you've. Where you've gone in that time. If anyone does want to reach out to you, if anyone's read and thought, you know what, I need to ask a few questions, is LinkedIn the best place? Is that where you would say?
Probably, because otherwise I'm going to have to give my personal details out.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'll tag you on everything. LinkedIn will be the place. But thanks again so much for giving us your time. And guys, thank you again for listening. As I said, Amy's details are on everything, both live and on the podcast. So feel free to reach out and ask any questions. Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. Tune in again next week. That's live on LinkedIn at 12 p.m. on Thursday, or you can catch the show on the following Monday from 6 a.m. on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll see you soon.